Ohio State is still undefeated after their first night game, I guess, at home of the year,
Second,
right? Second night game, right?
second, they beat Ohio.
You're right. My bad. Sometimes I forget about that one because it was Ohio. But anyway, Ohio State tops Minnesota in what was honestly a more exciting offensive game than we've gotten all year. I'm Chris. That's Ron. Ron, how are you?
Doing well. You know the best thing about being 5-0.
The chance to go 6-0?
Buckeyes come out with an absolute dominant performance over the Minnesota Golden Gophers. They get it done 42-3 in offensive showing for the Buckeyes. Julian Sayin goes out there and puts up 326 yards, a 3-touchdown. Bo Jackson gets involved on the ground. You see the backup quarterback. All around a good day for the Buckeyes. If they make you stay up this late for a game, you want it to be a good one. You don't want them to ruin your night staying up late. So the Buckeyes get it done in a relaxing fashion, a little bit of chaos around college football, but the Buckeyes go out and handle business in dominant fashion and continue to roll.
And I'm glad it wasn't a snooze fest, right? Like whenever you wait all day for a game, you want the game to have some form of entertainment. Today ended up being the Carnell Tate game, but what I want to start with, Ron, is that Bo Jackson got the start today. Now I want to give you your flowers. Since maybe week 1, maybe before then, Ron
the ninth carry of the season, I was ready to tell you I was not a fan of the depth chart.
Yeah, you called me and you're you are very pro Bo, is what I'll say.
Very pro Bo Jackson.
You were
I mean, you watch this game, and one of the things that we talked about last week is I said it feels like this coaching staff is making things infinitely harder for this offense by not playing the right running backs in the right situations. And it felt like this was the first week that we saw the proper rotation for these running backs. Bo Jackson is clearly RB1, and he goes out there and looks like it week in and week out. CJ Donaldson is finally starting to step into that role as the power back. And then James Peoples, Brian Day has been asked multiple times about this running back rotation. And he always says, we have 3 backs. We have 3 backs. And I've said a couple times, are we sure we have 3 backs? And James Peoples goes out there and has his best performance in Ohio State uniform, has a long of 33, shows that pop that had people comparing him to J.K. Dobbins at one point in time. And you see when the Buckeyes use this 3-headed monster, what it could be. Bo Jackson, 4.8 yards per carry. James Peoples, 8.4. And then CJ Donaldson limited in the game to only 3 carries. Not sure if he's dealing with an injury issue or if they're just trying to.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. Like, what do you think the running back pecking order is now? Because CJ only got 3 carries today and kind of not wowing anybody, obviously, with the 1 yard per carry. But it was just kind of unique to see Bo Jackson get a bulk of the carries and then Peoples be second up. But a lot of Peoples' carries came in garbage time. But again, CJ didn't get a ton. So what do you think? What do you think the pecking order is after Bo Jackson?
I think it is CJ Donaldson is the next back. You saw him come out and be the lead back against Texas and shoulder the primary load of carries. And I think he's going to be the guy that they have as the power back, your short yardage back, and your second guy. And then James Peoples looks to be that guy that is, as long as he continues to do the right thing. He got berated by the coaching staff when he went the wrong way and got Julian hit on a play because he wasn't moving in the right direction. But you hope that James Peoples gets to a point where he feels like a threat to actually receive the ball when he comes in before the second half, and they feel comfortable taking Bo Jackson off the field early in games to, one, keep them fresh for that game and for the entire season. We need a full stable of running backs healthy and performing this season. 1, to keep this offense on schedule, and 2, to keep the entire room healthy for the most important games, which are at the end of the season.
I thought the moment where he ran the wrong way, Ron, I thought that was it. I thought when Peoples ran the wrong way, we were not going to see him in any kind of meaningful carries the rest of the year. I was surprised to even see him go back out there. I thought they would use that as an opportunity to get Isaiah West a bunch of carries. And they didn't. They stuck with Peoples. But I thought that was it, man. And the way he got berated on the sideline, I was like, oh, like, we've seen this before. Like, me and you study Ryan Day. We study how they treat players for certain situations. I thought for sure that was the Ryan Day doghouse. And just like Josh Proctor, we don't know if you ever escape it. So I was pleasantly surprised to see him go back out there. He looks explosive, but I don't think he breaks tackles.
It doesn't. He seems like he goes down after the first hit, but he did show a little bit more explosion through the hole today. And I mean, you see Bo Jackson, he trips and still runs someone over. So it's hard to compare someone to him. But I mean, this running back room, when you see James Peoples get going, it has to be encouraging, because one of the things that we've talked about all year is, hey, these guys have the potential to keep getting better. Each week we see the Buckeyes go out and win, and it's like, we haven't even scratched the surface of how good this team can get. And James Peoples takes a step forward this week by adding depth to that running back room.
I do want to stay on the offensive side of the ball and talk about the man of the hour, Carnell Tate. 9 catches, 183, averaging 20 yards per carry and a touchdown with a long of 49. He was outrageous today. I thought this was perfect to get on tape. He looked so smooth. He looked explosive. He looked polished. And at the beginning of the game, I wondered, okay, is this a first rounder? Is kind of what I've been having the talks about. Is he deserving of being first round conversation? 100%. He's so good. And I'm embarrassed with myself for forgetting how insanely talented he is. He put it on display today.
Puts it on full display today. 9 catches for 103 yards and
183.
What did I say?
Oh, I thought you said 103. Maybe I'm tripping though.
Oh, sorry. 183 yards and a touchdown. Goes absolutely crazy. Almost puts up a 200-yard game. And it feels like the coaching staff was on Twitter this week seeing everyone crown Jordan Tyson the #1 wide receiver in this draft. And they reminded you on the broadcast, the Buckeyes will have a first-round wide receiver in not only this draft, but also the next draft. Carnell Tate goes out there and shows why he was such a coveted prospect. I mean, this recruitment went down to the wire, very highly contested recruitment with Tennessee. The Buckeyes really wanted Carnell Tate, and Ryan Day talked in his postgame about the unselfishness of Carnell. You see what Jeremiah's been able to do. He comes in as a freshman and essentially steals the show on a national championship team. And, you know, Carnell Tate still does the dirty work for the Buckeyes. He still goes out there and blocks. He doesn't necessarily always get the most targets in a game, and he just puts his head down and continues to work. And you have to love it in a room that talented and for a coach in Brian Hartline that recruits at such a high level to know that guys bring an unselfishness to a room that's usually considered a diva room.
Dude, he was so dominant today. And he's getting better after the catch as well. I was bugged when he fell down early in the game on a 3rd down, but after that, he was just, I think, perfect. Like getting open, high-pointing footballs. And Julian Sayin, I want to give him a lot of flowers for being able to deliver some of those deep strikes on the field. I thought that Ryan Day quite clearly heard the chatter nationally around Ohio State and around Julian Sayin, because Ron, you cover Ohio State every single morning, and you know that people think that Julian Sayin is limited. It was nice to see Carnell Tate go crazy to take care of one narrative, and then it's really nice to see Julian Sayin and Ryan Day be on the same page and go crazy to kind of squash another one. Thoughts on Julian Sayin and his performance today?
Julian Sayin had been criticized all throughout the week about his alleged inability to throw the ball deep or attack the seams. He must have heard the criticism. I'm looking at the box score. There were 3 different receivers alone with catches over 20 yards, and I believe Carnell Tate had 2 over 40 after the entire week. People questioned his air yards, his deep passes, his ability to attack the seam. And it felt like Brian Hartline said, you know what? Let me remind people that this is still a Ryan Day offense out here. And we've sent multiple quarterbacks to New York as well around here. And the Buckeyes go out there, and if you're watching and you're not an Ohio State fan, I would be terrified, because that was the last saving grace, that maybe this offense can't look like Ryan Day offenses of the past. And I've always warned about the potential Death Star year of Ryan Day having one of these. We'll get into it a little bit later, but it seemed like the standard of defense that Jim Knowles brought to Ohio State after the departure of Jeff Hafley, and it didn't necessarily ever get paired with one of those juggernaut type of offenses that we saw in the early days of Ryan Day before the play clock changes, before he became a little bit more conservative and defensive oriented. And it feels like this year he has the future first-round quarterback he has the future first-round quarterbacks flanked by 2 first-round wide receivers and potentially the best defense in the country.
I don't think it's potentially anymore. And we'll talk about them in a second. I want to stay on the offense real quick. You know, the offense today threw for 326 yards, and they ran for 133, and they ran less plays than their season average.
Which is crazy, because the Buckeyes are one of the slowest pace of play teams in the country, averaging around 60 plays a game.
Yeah, 60.2. Today they ran 58. Dog, we're sitting here, and I think people don't understand how inevitable this team is. We're sitting here, and like you said a second ago, the very, very last saving grace is that we hope this passing attack doesn't put it together because they might have no weakness. And I'm not used to saying that about a non-Nick Saban team, Ron. Like, what is the weakness on this team?
I don't have an answer because I said right guard would have been my answer, and Tegrid Shabula goes out there and plays a fairly solid game. You saw him get pulled early, and you see the coaching staff not afraid to sub guys in. We've seen Ethan Onua play at right guard. We saw Josh Padilla get reps in the first half at right guard, which shows you how short the leash is there because the standard is so high around this team right now that, like, you are nitpicking when you talk about the right guard position. It's not something that it's a glaring issue that's going to hold it back. It's the only thing when you watch the film that really seems to jump off the film. Are there things that they can correct week in and week out?
Absolutely.
Yes, but when you're watching the all 22, there's only one thing that felt like it jumped off the screen, and I don't think it really did in this game. And you saw the Buckeyes not only run the ball with success, but also keep Julian Sayin clean and allow him to deliver those deep strikes today.
Yeah, like Julian saying, like staying clean, like being able to stand in there. I want to give him a ton of credit. You called me where we were on the phone, and he stood in there and took a lick underneath the chin.
And it's so funny because I called you about that play because we had a conversation last week. And what did I tell you? My biggest frustration with Drew Aller is he's 6'5", 220 pounds, and doesn't step into throws like that. And what's the point of being 6'5", 225 pounds if you're not going to be willing to step into a defensive tackle or DN coming off the edge and deliver a strike? And you watch Julian Sayin, a guy of much smaller stature, step in and do that. And for a guy that has been questioned so much, whether it be his mental toughness, being a Cali kid, was he actually getting pushed by Lincoln Keenholz in this battle? And Julian Sayin has come in this season and put to bed every narrative around him. And again, he continues to smash those narratives. He broke the streak coming into the season of first-time starting quarterbacks against the number one team. He goes and ends Washington's winning streak. He sees people on Twitter criticizing his ability to throw the deep ball. He goes out there and is just dropping dimes in the bucket all game. He was just a little short on a deep pass early, but when you're putting up 42 points and your defense is averaging, we're going to have to adjust the numbers because they came into the game averaging 5.5 points per game given up, and they give up 3 against the Golden Gophers this week.
Yeah, like, and I guess we flip to the defense because there is something going on in the college football universe where the previous DC at Ohio State is at Penn State now, Mr. Jim Knowles. And Penn State today traveled to UCLA, one of the worst teams in the entire Big Ten. And as
Big
one of the
Ten?
worst teams in the, well,
they're one of the worst teams in the country.
One of the worst teams in the country, thanks for the correction, Ron. And one of the worst offenses in the Big Ten, who has a new coach, a new play caller. They went bananas on the Jim Knowles Penn State defense. And people called both of us crazy for thinking that Matt Patricia was going to be an upgrade. Hook, line, sinker. Matt Patricia is an upgrade. And today wasn't just more evidence towards that. It was the proof. Because Minnesota is a better team than UCLA in every respect. And today, UCLA looked like a crazy offense, and Minnesota looked like they hadn't discovered the forward pass outside the first drive. Ron, how thrilled are you to have Matt Patricia here? And are you shocked at all that Matt Patricia has been markedly better than Jim Knowles?
No, I haven't, because people tried to convince me that this this Matt Patricia defense was going to somehow be worse than Jim Knowles. And yes, the biggest reason for that was the departure in talent, but we knew the talent that the Buckeyes had behind them. And it just felt so strange to me in the offseason when you have a guy like Jim Knowles that came in 3 years ago from Oklahoma State, a team that hadn't won at the highest level, but he did have one of the best defenses in the country. And everybody was all on board with the Jim Knowles hire. And rightfully so. He came and completely transformed this defense. But then they go out and hire a multi-Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator, and everybody's like, I don't know about this. And I'm like, what are we doing? This guy was good for was good enough for Bill Belichick, but not good enough for Ohio State Twitter. What are we talking about?
No, Matt Patricia has been exceptional. Today was really big time. So here we go. The game plan coming in for Minnesota was very clear. After last week, Washington got sacked a lot. Damon Williams got sacked a bunch. The clear plan this week was for Minnesota to get rid of the ball quickly. Ohio State adjusted, and they were exceptional. Sonny Styles, Peyton Pierce, Davis, and Igmanosin, top 3 in tackles this week. Peyton Pierce, his first time on the top 5, played a big role in letting Arvo kind of roam a little bit more. The defense was absolutely locked down. Igmanosin continues to be fantastic. No penalties again today. And we're watching this, and they are completely suffocating teams. And if they're suffocating teams and also getting 2 first downs every trip, I don't know who has a shot. And this Minnesota offense wasn't horrendous. They're not horrendous. They're a decent offense. Not as good as Washington, but they're a decent offense. And Ohio State made them look like a group of 5 offense under Matt Patricia. Meanwhile, Jim Knowles is getting torched left and right against UCLA, who would lose by 2 touchdowns today if they played Minnesota. 2.
They'd lose by 2 to 3 touchdowns if they played Ohio State's backups. And it just makes you wonder what you see out there from this Jim Knowles defense, especially because, I mean, that Penn State defense is just as talented. It makes you thankful for Ryan Day and his hiring practices of being able to continue to level up. And I will continue to argue, post the Kerry Combs situation, Ryan Day has leveled up the coach that he is replacing every single hire he has made in the last 3 years.
I mean, how crazy is it? Like, we feel better about our coordinators than Georgia does. We feel better about our coordinators than Texas does, who suffered a huge loss today. We feel better about our coordinators than Michigan does. We feel better about our coordinators than just about anybody in the country. And there was a lot of scrutiny towards Ohio State and towards Ryan Day for the Matt Patricia hire. And I'm looking around like, I am looking across the country, Ron, and I can't figure out who's better than us.
Well, if Miami fans, I doubt they're watching this because they're probably still celebrating their massive win over Florida State, but I think that's the only team right now, even with a realistic argument. Chris, I wanted to ask you a couple more questions regarding the defense. We saw a guy in Zion Grady get out there when Kenyatta Jackson went down. Interesting choice of replacement instead of CJ Hicks. Do you think he's dealing with some sort of injury, or do you think the Buckeyes are going to go ahead and redshirt CJ and bring him along during the playoffs, since those games don't count towards a redshirt, and give him an opportunity to play another year of college football if the 5th-year rule does not pass this year, which would allow him to play 1 more year of college football? He recently transitioned from, a former 5-star out of Ohio at linebacker, moves to Larry Johnson's room, has flashed. I mean, we talked about it watching the All-22. It's like, why isn't CJ getting more Hicks? It looks like he's capable of them. And then you see Kenyatta go down and they bring in true freshman Zion Grady, a guy that we've seen get snaps this year, but you would expect CJ to come in a situation like that. What do you think's going on there? Is it something with an injury? Do you think that the red shirt theory is plausible?
I don't think they would use the redshirt theory. I think if there was a chance to play CJ where they felt comfortable with either his skill set or his health, I think they would play him. I mean,
he didn't have a helmet on the sideline. I just wanted to note that he did not have his helmet. So no injury reported, clean bill of health from the injury report outside of Jason Moore. So just interesting note there that I wanted to get your thoughts on.
Yeah, if it is about the redshirt rule, that would kind of surprise me a little bit. I feel like Ohio State has never been afraid to burn a red shirt in the past. We've seen it.
See, here's the thing. It's not necessarily burning a freshman's red shirt because they're going to be here. I think this is about prolonging his career, because if he does burn it, he's not going to be able to gain any more tape to potentially play at the NFL level. Is this Ohio State throwing him a bone of like, hey, you're going to play early, get you those reps, and then come playoff time, you're ready to roll again, because those don't count against your eligibility, and you could still either come back and play for Ohio State another year or potentially find somewhere that you think you could get more snaps, because this is a local kid, a 5-star, someone that had high expectations. Do they want to maximize his time in college football?
This is tricky. I mean, it might be that, but I guess where I'm at is like, I think Zion Grady is also really, really good.
Very true. And that's the very interesting fact, because we've talked about this team each week feels like it's getting better and better. And you see the running back rotation kind of stabilize this year. And you see Devin Sanchez in there still making plays as a true freshman. These guys are getting better week in and week out. And it feels like we're talking about a new name of a freshman or a younger guy that is pushing for more and more time on the field. And to see a guy like Zion Grady out there in a game like this early, you hate to see Kenyatta Jackson go down, but I think it continues to raise the potential ceiling of this team when you see young guys continuing to play, and not just play, but contribute at a high level.
I guess, like, do you think CJ Hicks is ready right now to be like an every down defensive end, or is he more just a pass rush specialist to you?
I think he's still a pass rush specialist, but I do think he's flashed enough to show that he has that capability. So maybe, again, lending to the theory of, if he has 2 years at defensive end instead of 1, would he be a ready every down type of defensive end? Or who knows? He could just be injured, and next week CJ Hicks is out there in the Rushman packages. But I did think that was an interesting note. The fact that he was on the sidelines, did not go in that moment. We did not see him register any stats this game. So just something to keep an eye on going forward with this Buckeye team.
Here we go, Ron. I definitely could be sold on the theory. I think right now, I guess my head went to, Zion Grady's just like taking leaps, because Zion Grady's a guy that's been a defensive end his whole life. Like, that's what he's going to be.
Yeah.
And so, you think, like, when Kenyatta goes down, they ask Kenyatta to do so much, like setting the edge and like so much like kind of in the run support, and not always just like go get the quarterback. So in my head, I thought, okay, Zion's going out there because he's more disciplined for a kind of contained defensive end and defensive end to kind of set the edge, rather than CJ Hicks, who I think is a pass rush specialist. But that theory makes a lot of sense if we're kind of boiling down Ohio State's plan for his future, which I'm sure they've absolutely like talked about, I guess. So you believe in that theory though too, right? Like you seem to.
No, I just thought it was an interesting theory.
It is interesting. It's making me think, man. You're like got me like over here, tin hat.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really change my hat up too much. I'm red hat always over here, but I sometimes I'll sneak a tinfoil one on underneath here, and just wanted to get your thoughts there, because I think the idea of 5th year CJ Hicks as an Ohio State Buckeye intrigues me more than anything that he could potentially do this year, and I wouldn't necessarily hate it. So it's just something that I wanted to talk about. I found pretty interesting on.
I mean, to bring him back, like they're probably going to be thin at that spot next year, right?
I mean, if Caden Curry continues to play like this, and Kenyatta Jackson, has a JTT or Jack Sawyer type of playoff run, you can see both of those guys out of there. There's been depth concerns about this edge position, so could be an added piece going forward. But I don't want to dwell on someone who did not play this game too much when the Buckeyes go out there and put up a 42-3 victory. I just thought it was quite interesting.
No, they definitely went big on big. Did you see what you needed to see for this team to be convinced, okay, this team could go back to back?
I mean, I feel like I've been seeing it week in and week out, and
I know some people were concerned about the downfield passing game.
And it feels like there's two camps of people around this Ohio State team. Teams that are waiting till Ohio State is hoisting the trophy above their head before they're ready to give them credit, and those that feel like they know what they're watching. And I feel like I know what I'm watching week in and week out, and that's the best team, or the best defense in college football, and a future first-round pick at quarterback, making his way and getting his footing. It feels like we are watching the Ryan Day masterclass right now. He has his defensive coordinator after misstepping with a defensive coordinator in the past. We see him with his potential first-round quarterback, but the way that Julian Sayin has been ushered into this offense has been significantly different than Kyle McCord being thrown into the fire and
Stroud. It's been
and CJ Stroud on the road at Minnesota to open up the year. They play a top 10 matchup against Oregon. CJ Stroud is throwing 63 plus times, and Ryan Day talked a ton that year about how much he hated how much CJ had to throw the ball. And it feels like Ryan Day has the running offense around him, the offensive line, to let Julian Sayin come in at his own pace. And it feels like there's a little bit of clashing of heads. It feels like Ryan Day is trying to keep the reins not only on Julian Sayin, but his offensive coordinator. They made the note on the broadcast that this was Brian Hartline's first full game truly calling all the plays. And what do you know? First time our offensive coordinator is Brian Hartline, the guy who's known for recruiting the best wide receivers in the country. Our quarterback goes out there and throws 3 touchdowns and 326 yards. So it's going to be interesting to see the way this offense looks going forward now that it feels like Brian Hartline fully has the reins. But I wouldn't quite roll out Ryan Day reaching back for that play sheet in the third Saturday in November.
Dude, they kind of let the secret out of the bag, right?
Yeah, because that's kind of been hidden. Like you guys have hinted at it on your
I
show.
get called a liar I get called a liar all the time about that, like kind of hinting at it.
I've called my co-host a liar for saying it on our show. I'm like, there's been no proof, only them saying it, and they came out on the broadcast. And it sounds like, in those broadcast meetings where they let a little bit out of the bag and let people know about what's going on in the building, it seems like they let the broadcast team know that it has been a collaborative effort from Ryan Day and Brian Hartline and Tyler Bowen, someone who is the run game coordinator. So now that Brian has the full reins, it seems like this offense has been completely unleashed. And if you're a fan of a team outside of Miami, I don't know how you could potentially even look at this Ohio State team. And I even say for Miami, I've been asking the question week in and week out, if Ohio State's not the best team in the country, you name me the team that wants to see this defense. Like, who out there has the offense that has been performing at a level that's like, you know what? I think I have something for that Ohio State defense, because I don't think I've seen one. And I think I watched this Miami team and I'm like, this team is good. But if you mean to tell me that Miami's going to come in and beat Ohio State with their two best receivers being true freshmen, I just don't buy it. I think Malachi Toney is one of the most explosive players in the country. Would have loved to see him at Ohio State. A Buckeye lean for a lot of his childhood. Early in roles.
I did my part, Ron.
We tried to get him here.
I did my part.
He early enrolls at Miami, and I was skeptical about his ability to be an explosive player at 17 years old as an early enrollee. Always believed in him as a player, but to see him go out there and do it at 17 years old, I mean, they didn't make this much of a fuss. They're not making as much of a fuss about him as they did Ryan Williams the year before, right. But they should, because it's deserved.
No, 100%. I'm kind of with you. Like, there's no real elite offense out there, and there is a super elite defense out there that's kind of just waiting in the wings, and that's our defense, and they're multiple everywhere. I do want to, before we kind of get out of here, I want to talk about the non-team thing that brought it today. The noise, the environment. It was loud. It was really loud, Ron. I could hear it on the TV how loud it was.
You got to tip your cap to our guy, Ross Bjork. He came into Ohio State and said one of his main goals as athletic director is to improve the game day environment. And Ohio State had a very wine and cheese vibe type of reputation for a couple years during the early years of Ryan Day. And some might argue those early teams didn't give as much to stand up and scream for as these current ones. But Ross Bjork went out to Autzen at that Oregon away game and saw the way that stadium rocked. We had a couple friends at the game, and they said it felt like being in the club. There wasn't a dry moment in that game. There was constantly something going on. The DJ was always spinning music. The place was rocking 24/7. And I put out a tweet during the game. I was like, they're jamming inside Ohio State Stadium right now. There's multiple times I've been able to hear, recent music being played and loud over the broadcast. So to hear the Ohio State stadium rock for two night games, not only against Ohio, but in this one against Minnesota, the Buckeyes show why this is one of the best atmospheres in the country when they're actually allowed to play a night game. And then again, I don't see a scenario with the way the Buckeyes are playing right now where they end up with a home.
Yeah, that was my next point. Like, these might be the only night games we get at the shoe, so I'm glad it was absolutely rocking. I do hope that at some point in the future, college football goes to the more NFL mode where if you're the ones who you just get all your games at home, I don't think they're going to go to that because of the bowl structure. But it was really nice to feel the electricity of a night game through the TV. Like, it's nice to feel.
Absolutely. And you just have to give all the credit to Ross Bjork for the effort, because some people, you know what I mean? Some people, aka the athletic director for 20 years before that, thought everything was good enough. And you see Ross Bjork making the efforts. The new scoreboard is on the way for next year. They have the temporary lighting in place. They have the temporary sound in place. They have plans in the future to replace all of those things to make sure that all of these game day elements are a regular staple in Ohio Stadium. And the fact that they're taking such a conscious effort to elevate the game day environment, I think that shows where the program and athletic directors see Ohio State in the college football landscape. And that's the gold standard. And they're trying to be that in every element, whether that be recruiting, whether that be game day environment or product on the field. And you see the Buckeyes go out there and perform and get a 42-3 victory. The Buckeyes caused 2 timeouts with the noise in the first half because they were so loud. And you just love to see it, that not only is this team bringing it week in and week out, but Buckeye Nation is too.
Before we go, how cool was the punt return where BI threw it?
I had to go dig up a tweet because I put out a tweet back in the day that said, who's going to be Ohio State starting quarterback? And it was the entire quarterback room plus Brandon Inniss. And everybody's like, what's Brandon Inniss doing on that list? And it's like, well, for those who know, Ohio State starting slot wide receiver, the ultimate teammate, his starting quarterback went down his junior year of high school, and he ends up leading American Heritage, one of the best teams in the country, at quarterback, and played quarterback his entire junior year as a 5-star wide receiver. And he goes out there on special teams and throws a pass to Lorenzo Styles. And my phone was blown up after that because I've been adamant that Lorenzo Styles is the fastest player on the team. And they're like, fastest player on the team? What? Didn't look like it there, but I'm still believing the Coach Mick numbers. I think Lorenzo is the fastest player on the team.
Well, I will argue with you on our YouTube channel at some point during the week, but I wanted to throw that too because you and I have always joked about BI, the quarterback. But that's Ron. I'm Chris.
You know how this
again?
Ohio State wins again. You know how this thing ends. It's always go Bucks, and of course, OH.
I-O.